Hey guys, Tina here and welcome to another wrap-up. Today I'll be wrapping up books 4 through 6. The first of those is The Stone in the Skull by Elizabeth Bear. I received an ARC copy of this book from the publisher via NetGalley, and I would like to thank them for the opportunity. Sadly, I have to say that I didn't have this book at 25%. I just couldn't get into it. The book itself, it actually has a really interesting premise. It tells the story of Gage, who is this automaton. He was created by one of the most powerful wizards a long time ago, but his wizard has a long past, and since then he's been sort of offering his services to whoever needs them. And this time around he's actually carrying a very important message from the Wizard of Malisan to the Rajni of the Lotus Kingdom. As I mentioned, I read only 25% of this book, so I am not reviewing it here for you because that would not be fair. But what I can tell you, what I got from the beginning of this book is that Gage and the dead man, who is his sort of partner, are traveling with this caravan that is traveling through a very dangerous part, and they're basically there for their protection, for the caravan's protection, which is very much needed. And at the same time we follow different women. One is the Rajni of the Lotus Kingdom, and we also meet another lady who is basically reigning instead of her son because he's still too young to do that. And I have to say that I really didn't care for the women or their chapters anyway. There's a lot of description in this book and I'm not always up for that. And I actually have to say that I did enjoy Gage's chapters, or the Gages and the Dead Man's. I did enjoy them because there was a little more action and they were sort of more interesting. But when it came to the ladies, there's like every detail was described, and it just it was too much for me. They were just pulling me out of the story, so I really didn't care for that. Aside from that, I really cannot say that it's whether or not it's a good book or not, because I clearly didn't finish it. So I would say that if you are interested in the premise, definitely go pick it up. What's the harm in that? There are definitely a lot of good reviews on Goodreads, so clearly I'm in the minority. But yes, I mean, honestly, maybe it was just my mood at the moment and I might try it at a later date, but right now I just couldn't force myself to do it, and I didn't think that would be good anyways because the review would probably not be that positive anyways. That happened, so yeah, I sort of DNF'd it. So after all that mumbling, let's move to the next book that I read, and that was Alias Grace by Margaret Atwood. Now let me tell you, this was not the book that I expected to read first by Margaret Atwood. Of course, I thought that that's going to be The Handmaid's Tale, but surprisingly I found it at the library, and I know that there's a Netflix show based off of it, so I was definitely curious about it. So I picked it up and decided to give it like 50 pages, and if it pulls me in, great. If it doesn't, it's just gonna get returned. But it did pull me in and I finished it and actually really much enjoyed it. It's based off of true events. There was this crime in the mid-1800s in Canada where this young girl and a guy were convicted of murdering their employer and his housekeeper slash mistress, and the crime drew a lot of attention from the public, especially because of the girl's age and all that. And the man actually was then later convicted and hanged, and the girl was convicted of the crime, but as associate, not actually the one that did it, and she was imprisoned for life basically, although later on she was released and she disappeared and there was all trace of her was gone, but still. So Margaret Atwood took that story and sort of retold it in her way as she imagined it. So I'm not sure whether or not it's correct or not, and I think that's not even the point of the story anyways. But I really ended up enjoying it. And Grace herself was sort of a character that I cannot really say that I liked or disliked. I'm really sort of meh about her. But I did like hearing about all the historical things, how people lived back then, what life for a servant was like and all that. I really enjoy those kind of books that teach me things like that, and I have talked about this a lot here on my channel. I love learning without me actually thinking that I'm learning. I think that's really a great way to learn. I'm repeating myself, but yeah. Actually, it sort of reminded me of Gosford Park, if you watch that movie. Now, I'm not a fan of that movie, but I do really love all the aspects. It shows us a lot about the machinery that goes on, like what the servants' lives were like, and I really love that movie for that. And this book sort of reminded me of that in a way. There were a few twists that I saw come in a slightly different variation that had actually then happened in the book. But all in all, it was really enjoyable, and I'm actually watching the Netflix show right now. And so far, I have to tell you, I feel that it's sticking really close to the book, and it's all very well done. So I'm enjoying it. And the last book that I'm going to talk about is Iron Gold by Pierce Brown, which is book 4 in what is turning out to be a saga. And I'm not going to go into the specifics of this book because that would be very spoilery, but just in general, Red Rising is a sci-fi dystopian book that takes place in our future. Humanity has conquered our solar system and we are everywhere basically, and the society has been divided into these different castes based off of work, the type of work that you do. And these different levels or castes are color-coded, so you have golds at the top that are ruling, you have reds at the bottom, they're just physical laborers that are more or less slaves, and in the middle you have like browns and pinks. Now pinks are, they have everything to do with pleasure, prostitutes, or whatever entertainment you need, and you know, things. That's how society works. And in book 1 in Red Rising we meet Darrow. He's a red and he's been mining, his people have been mining in the mines of Mars. They do not see daylight ever, and they have been told for generations that they're mining for this helium-3 element that is supposed to be used for making Mars habitable for humanity. But the fact is that humans have been living on Mars for a pretty long time by now, and yeah, suddenly Darrow becomes aware of what is going on, and basically he's pulled into this group of people that are trying to fight the system, and he becomes sort of the leader of that. I mean, the image, you know, in the forefront. And so the first 3 books are basically how to take down the society, and this starts off 10 years after that happens in Morningstar, and now they have to rebuild the society. That's slightly tougher than actually tearing it down. I really liked how Pierce Brown managed to show us all these different aspects of how people rule, how societies, these different parts of the not the universe, the solar system are run, because some stick to the old system, some are trying to develop this new one, one have sort of been isolated, and it's all very interesting. And you want to see how it's so interesting seeing how everything works. There's a lot of politics, a lot of plotting, a lot of intrigue. We meet a lot of characters. Some of the old ones are here and a lot of new ones, and I have to say that he sort of make me like them all for, you know, the most part. And none of them are perfect. They're all very shady. There's good and bad in them, and they do good stuff and bad stuff, and sometimes you just go, what are you doing, people? And I have to say that there's a lot of crazy people in this book that they're just insane. Some insane people, but I do still love them, and I just enjoyed this book so much. I buddy read it with Haley, and we buddy read the whole previous trilogy as well, so we had a blast. These books are very fast-paced. If you have not read a Pierce Brown book yet, then I have to say that for me at least, and I think for Haley as well, you know, it takes a bit of time to get used to his writing style. But this time around, it was really easy to get into it, and he has gotten better than, you know, he was with his previous trilogy, of course. Yeah, and as I said, these books are really fast. You just fly through them, but it's also very important that you don't skip stuff, because every sentence actually, I think, pretty much counts in these books, and you might miss some important stuff. Now they're pretty serious regarding the topic, also very gruesome, so, you know, if you're sensitive, maybe don't reach for them. But there's also some hilarious moments in them as well, and yeah, I really like them, and I'm very happy that the next book is apparently coming out in September, The Dark Age, which is great, because there are a few cliffhangers in here that I would not be happy if I had to wait like an entire year. But then again, I'm not too worried about them. For some reason, I don't know. Just, yes, there are cliffhangers, but I'm not too mad about that. I don't know. Interesting, but still, yeah. So anyways, definitely I do recommend this book. Anyways, those were the 3 books that I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching, and see you in my next one. Bye!